This is Season 5 and Episode 12 of the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
I'm Gary LeMaster.
And we are back with another episode full of delicious card content.
Delicious.
I had prolonged eye contact in there. I don't know why I did
You made it awkward.
I'm still doing it
Yeah, it's okay.
right now.
Look at me. There, that's better. Now you gave the audience a break from the eye
I
contact.
get that a lot when people say, look at me, that's better. It's a common thing that...
I was just trying to help the audience out a little bit.
We did our first Whatnot. By the time you watch this, we will have done 2 Whatnots because we're recording this right before our next show. But wow, it was
fun, man.
It was a lot of fun.
Really appreciate you guys all coming and hanging out. I think that we peaked out at about 70 people in the room, and I don't think we dropped below 27 or 28 at any point, which for a first show, if you know anything about Whatnot, was fantastic.
Hey, people hung out. That's what I wasn't sure about. So for those of you, and several Fill My Phlegm comments in the chat, I saw that. Request for me to sing more often.
There were none of those.
Well, maybe one. I may have paid him for that one. But
that wasn't good.
It's good. Yeah, we're going to keep doing this again every Thursday night at 7 o'clock.
Yep. Come hang out with us. Bookmark the show at the Ball Card Show on Whatnot.
At the Ball Card Show. Now, we do have a giveaway to show for our next show. Yeah. You all will be stuck with just me. I'm the only one running that. Gary,
my daughter's getting married.
His daughter's getting married. So
we've
I'll
got
be up there for that.
Signed Jamal Charles official Broncos jersey. It's JSA certified. Jamal Charles, for you youngins who may not remember, for about 5 years was an absolute monster. He had a couple of 1,800-yard seasons for the Chiefs and the Broncos. Then his knees kind of gave way, as running backs tend to do. And, yeah, but this is going to be a buyer's giveaway for Jason's solo show on May the 8th. So come and check it out. Buy a card.
You could buy a $5 card and get that jersey.
You could buy a $1 card and get a $2 mag and get a free jersey.
There's
all kinds of ways you can do that. I agree.
But it's out there. It's possible. But, yeah, be sure to give it a follow. Bookmark it. And we'll be doing this every week. As long as you guys want to hang out with us, we'll be there.
Every Thursday at 7.
We got to talk about the draft.
Yeah.
Now, if I recall, a couple weeks ago, you said this is the most highly touted and talented quarterback class you've ever seen. Is that correct?
I think I said the exact opposite. I think I said there's not a single quarterback in this class that should have had a first-round grade.
That should have had a first-round grade. I misunderstood you the whole time because I was sitting there thinking.
Wasn't a single one.
Well, do we get to the meat and potatoes of this whole story?
Well, we can talk about that part of it. Everybody knew Cam Ward was going to go number 1 overall because NFL teams are desperate for quarterback play.
Yep.
Do I think Cam Ward's going to be a bad NFL quarterback? No. Mm-mm. Do I think Cam Ward is worthy of the number 1 overall pick in a draft that had guys like Abdul Carter and Mason Graham and Travis Hunter? No. But quarterbacks are always going to be graded on a slight curve.
Yep.
What was really interesting, as everybody, you've heard ad nauseum, and we're going to add to that nauseum. You like that?
That was good.
We're going to add to it. Travis Hunter went number 2 overall, and his teammate, Shedeur Sanders, fell.
So fall from grace.
We didn't see a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And then the next day, we didn't see a second or third-round pick. It took until pick 144 for the Cleveland Browns, who had already drafted Dillon Gabriel in the 3rd round, which was also a head-scratcher, to trade up and select Shedeur Sanders.
So before we go any further, I think let's stop and just acknowledge the wide variety of talent represented in that quarterback room in Cleveland right now.
Yeah, you've got
Deshaun Watson.
Oof.
Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. I think you've got presumed starter now Joe Flacco. And then Dillon Gabriel. And Shedeur Sanders.
You know, what would be even funnier is if they gave Flacco that contract and then benched him.
They didn't pay him that much.
I know, but it'd be such a Cleveland thing to happen.
For sure, but I don't think they will. Dillon Gabriel ain't ready to start. Do I think that Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders will see some playing time this year? Yes.
Yeah.
But the one thing I think that everybody needs to take into account with Shedeur Sanders' slide, I heard all kinds of rumors and thought processes as to what it was. Everything from Stephen A. playing the race card to people saying that Dion and his camp and that circus they didn't want around NFL teams. I think what really happened is the NFL as a whole said, this guy's a backup at our level. He got picked in the 5th round. That's backup territory.
Yeah.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson got picked like 7 or 8 spots higher in his draft than Shedeur Sanders got picked in this draft. I think what NFL teams saw was a guy who they thought was potentially a high-end backup, which he went later than that. But here's the reason I think he went later than that, with that being the case. When you're in that territory of being drafted as a backup, the intangible stuff, the locker room stuff matters way more than it does. People were like, well, Caleb Williams had all the same concerns and everything. Caleb Williams is a hell of a lot better football player than Shedeur Sanders. Like, not on the same planet of athletic ability. Like, we're not even talking about the same thing. Which is why the attitude and all that other stuff wouldn't have mattered if Shedeur was that level of athlete.
Right.
He just isn't. And so when you're drafting a guy to come into your quarterback room and to learn and be ready to go if it's needed, you don't want a guy who blows off meetings. You don't want a guy who goes into a meeting with the Giants and Brian Daboll has sent ahead a install package for you to study and learn, and then you come to the meeting and you get quizzed on it and you don't know any of it, and then when you get called out on it, you have attitude about it. Like, a team doesn't want that in a backup quarterback. So I also think part of the fall was the unexpectedness of the fall was that a lot of people in the NFL really like Deion Sanders, and nobody was telling him the truth. And he's Shedeur's agent. Like, there's a reason that agents exist.
I'll stop you there.
You don't think so? I think there was delusion.
People like him, but I think he has to be a nightmare because there's never a no that he accepts.
Well, right. But
that's what's made him successful.
But people are also not going to tell him the truth.
But they may have been telling him the whole time. It wouldn't have mattered.
That's fair. That's fair too. But at the end of the day,
look at every presser that was negative for him and how he responded.
Yeah. Oh no, that's true. And I also think there's some
double down on narcissism.
There's some thought process that goes into not putting all the blame on the kid in this situation. You've got a kid who was raised by a guy with that approach to life. I'm the greatest at all things. Nobody can stop me from doing anything. And this kid has been fed that his whole life about himself. And there's a certain level of confidence that comes out with that. That's a great thing for a quarterback to have.
Sure, yeah.
But when that confidence goes into delusion, it's not good.
Yeah,
now,
you want them to have the memory of a goldfish, right? Like, you want them to forget and move on and all that. But I don't know if you saw this clip. It's a couple years old now, but it resurfaced of Deion talking up Shedeur in the Jackson State locker room with other players there.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just side eye after side eye. Yeah. And we don't know exactly what they're thinking, but it sure looks a lot like, are we doing this again?
Well, and
is this every game? Is it going to be like this? Right.
Well, there's also that idea I think that NFL teams had that a lot of Shedeur's success was very carefully curated.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was very carefully. Everything was made around him to make him look as good as possible.
Well, let's give credit where it's due then. I think you're bringing up a good point. Deion Sanders was the original NIL deal.
Yeah.
He realized that he was the brand.
Yes, 100%.
And that's how these players are marketed now. They are the brand. Now, was Jordan a brand? Yes. Was Bird, like, were all these players brand? He understood there was value outside of just the sports arena that he had to offer, and he protected it at all costs.
Yeah.
Coach Prime. I mean, how many years later are we saying, like, 2-3 decades later from, like, relevance as an athlete, and we're saying Coach Prime as he's coaching Colorado? I mean, it's pretty impressive. So I think Deion understood as a parent and as somebody who'd been through this as an athlete. Is there a possibility maybe he saw, hey, my kid's good. I'm going to say he's a first rounder, but I'm going to get him as much money as I can now. Yeah, I'm going to build that brand out now.
He cost him a lot of money, though. If he comes back to Colorado, he gets about $4.8 million in NIL money. Yep. His first NFL contract is going to cap at $4.1 million over 4 years.
But if he gets anywhere close to a start, like, he's going to have so many irons in the fire where, hey, if this happens at the end of training camp, like, I just think that marketing dollars benefit from him finding a starting role somewhere.
Let's talk about that and how it relates to the hobby then.
Sure.
So my advice, take it for what it's worth. I will not be putting a dime into Shedeur Sanders autographs or anything else. Panini Instant dropped a product immediately on draft day. One autograph card at a minimum per package. They were $300 a piece. If you are buying Panini Instant autos of Shedeur Sanders for $300 and hoping that someday you're going to make money on them, you are better off just rolling up to the casino, taking that $300 and slapping it on green on the roulette wheel and keeping your fingers crossed.
More of a 26 black guy, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, that's a 50-50 shot almost.
Right.
We're not talking about a 50-50 shot. We're talking about a 5% shot that Shedeur Sanders explodes. And like you said, let's say he gets a start or two.
I think it'd still be a cool story.
Like, I think it'd be a cool story, but let's say
I don't dislike the kid. Like,
no.
That's what I want to say too. Like, what's his problem? He is, like, to a fault optimistic with every single thing that he's doing. He seems to, like, he loves the camera. He smiles. I've not heard him. Now, I might be missing something. I haven't seen an interview where he's being toxic. He's very careful on the front-facing appearance to the public.
For sure.
Clearly, there were some issues in the locker room and in meetings, and there had to be some issues in meetings. There had to be. Because as a raw athlete, the parallel I had, which is not the same, but was like, this could be a Braxton Miller situation. A good athlete.
No, he's not that great of an athlete. That's the thing. That's the thing. He's not that great of an athlete. If he was a great athlete, Braxton Miller was a phenomenal
freak
athlete.
Yeah.
Braxton Miller run a 4.3 40. Shedeur's running a 4.7 4.8. Like, he's not that great of an athlete. That's the thing. It's one thing if you are an amazing athlete and you have some of those personality traits, you're going to get away with it. If you're not an amazing athlete, you're just not. There was a clip that popped up of the pre-draft process of him and Cam Ward doing drills together. And Cam Ward is just not on the field, although the field stuff was too. Cam Ward is verbally obliterating Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur's like, hey, let's make a song together on this TikTok. And Cam's like, I'm here for football, bro. Yeah. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Like, he just verbally obliterates Shedeur, and Shedeur has no concept of how to handle it because he's been so insulated by that environment.
Yeah.
He's been so, like, protected from that. And when you walk into a real locker room where your dad's not the head coach, where people aren't worried about, stepping on your toes.
Bro? All of us were drafted into the NFL.
and nobody cares who your dad is at that point. Like, it doesn't matter. You played sports enough to know what it is like to be on a team with somebody whose dad is the coach and who probably should not have the position that they have because of who their dad is. They get it. It's not fun for anybody.
But like when Dion said, there are a couple teams I won't allow him to be drafted to.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
No.
That doesn't. But backing up, you talked about this Panini Instant product where it's a guaranteed auto. Let's just be clear, because I think we've talked about maybe 4 or 5 products in the last year, and it's not just Panini that's doing this.
No.
Fanatics doing this well.
No.
When it is this player's set guaranteed auto, I might eat crow here if there's some oddball set I'm wearing. Like, even Jordan stuff like that. Jordan has all these collector sets. They tried to do this
but not
through
with
the 90s.
Autos.
Well, not with that would be different, right? But we know who Jordan is now, and he was established by the time they dropped those sets.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different. But these player sets with a guaranteed auto, I haven't seen them pop off.
No,
I've never seen them pop off in value.
They're not going to.
Yeah.
And the moral of the story with Shedeur Sanders, don't buy his stuff thinking that it's going to make you money. No doubt.
Pay 5th round draft pick prices.
Correct. Pay Clayton Tune prices.
Yeah.
That's where it should be.
Now, is there cultural relevance that props his value up? Yes. The market's going to demand that. But you have about a 6-month window to find out if it can be anything or nothing. Because if it's a $300 auto right now, which it can't be $300.
No, you're losing money on a base auto if you buy that at $300.
What's that product dropping at? Ballpark?
It's $299. It's already available.
That's what I'm saying.
It was Panini Instant. It was $300 for
that.
one card.
He gets one start. I don't know how it's worth more money. It's probably worth less.
And if that one start is bad,
if the 1-star isn't amazing.
Right. That's
that's
the point.
it.
He's not going to get the opportunity to come in as a 5th round pick and meet 5th round expectations.
Now, I do think this, and I don't have years of experience with film, but 5th round, like I don't.
What did we talk about?
That felt a little more like a statement.
What did we talk about with quarterbacks? So at the NFL level, a quarterback, in order to be successful, and I don't define successful as being a Pro Bowler, I mean like top half of the league, you have to have at a minimum one thing that you do extremely well.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, grading on a little bit of a curve, I would say that the one thing that he does super well is he is a very accurate thrower of the football. There's no question that he's a very accurate thrower of the football. However, he takes a lot of sacks. Now, some people would say that's because Colorado's offensive line was really bad, and there's truth to that. There were also a lot of sacks he took when he had the ball in his hand, and it was a 5 count before the ball left his hand.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how accurate you are if you can't process information quickly. You don't have 5 seconds in the NFL to throw the football unless you are the athlete that Josh Allen or Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson is. You just don't have 5 seconds to throw the football on a regular basis. So he's going to have to learn some things as far as processing information quickly, making decisions quickly. A lot of the throws he made at Colorado that were highlight reel throws were throws where he didn't release the ball until he saw the receiver come open. Mm-hmm. You can't do that in the NFL.
No.
That's not how it works. You throw to grass.
You throw to a spot.
Yeah,
of
you
grass.
throw to grass. That's it. You throw to an open grass. And so there's a lot of things I think NFL teams just looked at and went, he's not a starter right away, if ever.
Sure.
Okay? If he's not a starter right away, we can't draft him in the first 2 rounds.
Then it just becomes what's the talent acquisition cost.
And he's a backup. Now, are we prepared to draft a guy? Dylan Gabriel went ahead of Shedeur Sanders. From a pure football standpoint, there's not a world where that should happen. I agree. He went 2 rounds ahead. But you know why he went 2 rounds ahead? Because the team knows that Dylan Gabriel can come in and he's not going to cause waves. There's not going to be a circus around him. Nobody's going to be screaming for him to be their starter.
It had a lot more to do with just the meetings and
yes. Absolutely it did.
So it's a little more of a statement. It's checks and balances. It's not like they're trying to let's all punish somebody.
No.
But it's just is it worth the headache or
this guy's going to be a backup for us for at least a year, maybe 2. Do we want to deal with the headache that comes along with him being the backup?
Mm-hmm. He has opportunity to compete, and he in some ways, that's a
great
more
spot.
Wide open opportunity
it's
for him than a lot of situations.
For him. And listen, I wish the kid all the best. Nothing would make me happier.
I didn't expect 5th round.
I didn't expect 5th round either.
I expected 2nd or 3rd.
But nothing would make me happier for this kid to go in and prove everybody wrong.
That'd be cool.
That would be awesome. Good for the kid, good for the league, good for everybody.
Deion would be levitating.
I don't think it's going to happen. But I hope I'm wrong. He's no Daniel Jones.
Buckeyes, a lot of Buckeyes were drafted.
Quinshawn ahead of Travion was surprising, but boy, Travion couldn't have gone to a better spot.
New England.
Vrabel, the Patriots had a great draft. I think Vrabel must have
Miami's in full rebuild.
Vrabel, I think, took the Patriots GM and just shoved him in a closet 3 months ago and went, we'll let you out after the draft.
No, that's probably the terms and conditions of him coming there. Is there's a one way I do this.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk a little bit about Panini. In the last couple of weeks, they've locked out a few big contracts for autographs. The more interesting thing in this story is the expiration date of the contract. So Panini announces autograph deals with Mahomes, Travis Hunter, and Arch Manning. Exclusive. So they're not signing with any other company. This is where they're signing. They will be in products until one day before the license is going to be transferring to Fanatics.
Yeah, where their license expires.
Yep. So what do you think the implications of this are? What does it do for Panini? It does a lot for their football products.
Well, I mean, it does a lot for their football products. It does for their football products this year what Fanatics got the last couple years with Caleb Williams and Bryce Young and a lot of those guys only signing for them.
Yeah.
So Panini went on the offensive and said, okay, we got 1 year. I think we're going to see more products from Panini than we have ever seen. those autographs are going to be all over them, and that's their kind of last hurrah.
What does this do to the
licensed
Mahomes
products.
auto market? Does it drop it a little?
Well, it depends on how many things Mahomes is signing. Like,
Well,
and
does this parallel with like Bonds signing again? Like Bonds autos from 25 years ago have gone down
Well, yeah,
because there's more out there.
yeah. I don't think that that's the case because
He's an active player.
the
you know?
reason that Bonds autos dropped is because anytime somebody hasn't signed for 25 years for anybody and then they get licensed autos again, the money's going to shift to the new stuff.
Sure.
It's just how it is. I don't think that's the case with Mahomes. We got an active guy who's been signing year after year after year after year. The only way that it really causes his market to go down is if Panini somehow convinced him to sign 100,000 stickers.
Sure.
Like, and if that's the case, Panini spent $40 million doing it because he's not signing stickers for $10 a crack.
Right.
He's probably $200 to $300 a crack.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
But for a company that's not so sure that Fanatics is going to have the license because they're a monopoly, the contract structure is pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, they know. They know what's up.
They know where it's heading. Let's talk through update or
So
product
many
releases. We have a ton of releases.
So many releases coming out.
This is April 30th through May 7th. So some of these will have dropped by the time you're able to check this out. But I'll just run down the list, and then we can point out a couple that we like or that we really would stay away from.
Yep.
2025 Topps Chrome Black Baseball. 23-24 Flawless Basketball. Panini Prism Premier League Soccer. Panini Revolution Basketball. Impeccable Football. Bowman Baseball. That's, I think, on the 7th or close to it. National Treasures Baseball. O-Pee-Chee Platinum Hockey. Clearly Donruss Football. And then Immaculate Football. All dropping in that short period of time, which I honestly, like for an LCS, that's kind of like a tidal wave of products to
It is. It's
navigate
a tidal wave
and
of
to
cash
purchase.
flow.
Yeah. Good grief. That's a lot of money to spend if you own a shop. All right. Product you love, product you hate.
I'm not a fan of Topps Chrome Black Baseball. It's just a lottery product. It's expensive. It's got 5 cards, and you can absolutely get washed on it.
You kind of have to open a case to find out if you got anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And you can still get
washed.
A bunch of $20 vet autos in there.
You could absolutely get washed.
Packaging is cool. I love that it's in case.
It's a pretty card.
Yeah.
It's just I don't think it's a good value product at all.
When it comes to their short printed rookie autos, how do they stack up to similar products? What would you compare this to?
It's kind of in its own little niche, maybe like museum collection or tribute.
Yeah.
It's not going to hold the same value as flagship Chrome. That's kind of the pinnacle for rookie autos.
Not a bad, let me finish the thought, not a bad rainbow product.
No.
But wait 3 to 6 months for the prices to die down. We are seeing, I don't know if you've noticed as much too, but I'm seeing a lot more set building with subsets in the last year. A lot more people kind of wading into that on new products, which I think is a great thing for the hobby overall.
I think you see it a lot more because of your eBay store.
Sure.
I don't see it as much, but that's because that's not where I
I
live.
It's happening with ultra modern, and it's happening with ultra modern subsets, and it's not just old guys doing it that have always collected vintage.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good thing. So not crazy about Topps Chrome. Which one of these is like?
I'm not crazy about any of the basketball products.
I'll just go ahead and say that my least favorite product is Panini Revolution. I think it is a product that if it disappeared, no one will be sad about.
No, and again, guys, the rookie class in this year's basketball product is so bad.
Well, I mean, Flawless is a gorgeous product.
Well, Flawless has so many good vet stuff, and they have logo mans and all that kind of stuff. But Flawless is also going to probably be $5,000 a box, $6,000 a box.
It's going to be overpriced for sure.
Yeah. The rookie class is going to keep it from being a $10,000 box like it has been in the past. But I bet it's every bit of 4 to 5. But you can hit LeBron logo mans. You can hit all that stuff. So there's still value in Flawless. It's just an expensive product.
It's on vet, and then how much are you willing to spend on the risk of a vet?
How much are you willing to spend on your hit being a Chris Kaman auto? Like that's just the reality you have to ask.
Impeccable Football is really pretty. Not my favorite product in the world, but it's really nice. It's
the
really
football
expensive.
class is good.
Yeah.
Rookie class is good. The quarterback class is good. So it's an expensive product, but if that's where you live, it's not a bad one.
O-Pee-Chee Platinum Hockey. Now, this is not a low and liquid segment, but I'll tell you right now, O-Pee-Chee Platinum Hockey base sells on a really regular basis for me.
Yeah.
So if you're a hockey buyer and you're in an eBay store, If you want to put in work, you can mitigate if you lose a little bit. And then clearly Donruss football.
It's okay.
The autos don't really hold up. They kind of fade.
And the acetate cards, so surface is usually rough on those. I think, again, my favorite product out of this whole list is Bowman Baseball, but everybody knows how I feel about Bowman.
Not surprised.
There will be a case or two of
now,
blasters.
Draft
in the
had a
future.
rough year this year overall, right? Was Draft the product or Chrome the product where they were like, there's really...
Chrome was rough
It was rough this year.
Draft was pretty good.
Which it's hard to do that with a Bowman product because there's usually a handful of prospects people are already excited about.
Yeah, Draft was good. Chrome was
like a deep dive. Like, who could I convince myself I should
Yeah.
buy into? One of the very few products you'll ever hear Gary and I talk about justifying breaking with. Fair?
Yeah. If you're going to buy into brakes on Bowman, my advice is this, and you're going to usually find these on eBay. Find somebody that's doing a 10 or 15 case player break. Find an obscure player that you like a lot that you've done some research on and go buy that player in the break. Don't go buy the big names in the product. You're going to get washed and they're going to go insane. But you can buy. Anthony Volpe was cheap as hell in 2020 player breaks.
Yeah.
Junior Caminero was not super. Davison De Los Santos. Yeah, I couldn't spit his name out. I had Leo DeVries stuck in my head. Davison De Los Santos was cheap in player breaks, and he popped off last year. So do some research. Find a couple of guys that you really like. Moises Ballesteros, who we're going to talk about later, it was cheap in player breaks.
Yep.
So,
Bowman is probably my favorite retail product.
it's the only way I'll rip Bowman. I won't touch Hobby.
Yep. Okay. Value box time. We just finished up a series on what we would do if we were starting a card business. Tomorrow we walk through all the different things you need to consider, from what should you sell, where do you buy it, how do you negotiate, and where do you scale. And this week we want to talk about, it may carry over for a couple weeks depending on the engagement we have with it, but what is the worst advice you've ever received regarding collecting or dealing cards?
Yeah.
There's a lot of advice out there. There are a lot of forums where you ask a question and you'll have 10 different answers from 10 different people. There are Facebook groups like the sports card nonsense one, which I know Mike and Jesse are over it. It's like a necessary evil to keep it at this point, but it's probably the most toxic page I've ever been on.
It's rough.
Tons of terrible advice out there. And it's just from collectors, not from Mike and Jesse. They do a good job with it, but I want to jump into some of the things that we've heard over the years and break down why it is terrible advice. Some of this advice doesn't sound so bad off the rip until you actually start following them on their advice. And you're like, this was a terrible idea.
You go down the logical rabbit hole, and then you're like, wait a minute, this doesn't work.
So the value box, the worst advice we've ever received. I'll let you kick it off with the first one.
The one of the first things that I was told by friends who were dealers when I started setting up at shows was you have to price your cards over market value because everybody wants to negotiate, and it's the only way you're going to get full value. And like you just said, when you first hear that, you're like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Stores do that all the time.
The problem with that is very simply that it makes a fatal assumption. And that fatal assumption is that your buyers are morons. They're not. The assumption that your buyers don't know the market value of cards and that you can give them 20 or 25% off and then they pay full market value and they're happy and you're happy and everybody wins is a fallacy. Less than 1% of people walking at a show don't know the value of cards or don't pull out their phone immediately to check what comps are to see if you're close. Yeah. Pricing over value on your stuff to negotiate backwards is silly. Here's what you should do instead. You should just price your stuff in line with the market, or if you can price it a little bit under market and still make the margin that you need to make, do that. Yeah. Your stuff will sell quickly and you won't have to deal with as much negotiation and haggling. Are you still going to have to deal with the people that want to come in and offer 70%? Absolutely. That's just the reality.
Let's peel back the onion a little bit. What are the negatives that will happen if you follow this advice? The first one I thought of, I never expected, and I should have, but I never expected that a large portion of my business would be repeat buyers, whether it's at a show or eBay or whatever. You think of that, sure they would, but anybody that deals knows they're targeting certain cards, but your inventory is revolving nonstop. And everyone that's dealt over a period of time would say, I've had 3 month windows where I was convinced that I needed to kind of move this direction with my inventory, and it just didn't really pan out. A couple of injuries or a couple of products that just were kind of a dud that I wasn't expecting. And then other months where it's way better. But buyers are looking for certain things, and if you don't have those things nonstop, it's hard to keep repeat buyers. But you know what will end the possibility for that quicker than anything? One bad transaction.
Yeah.
One poor transaction. And for some of you that have been doing this, you feel like, oh, I bumped up the price, I brought it back down, they were happy, they bought 5 cards. But at some point, if they're a dealer, they're going to be pricing that, which a dealer, it's on you if you bought it as a dealer and you didn't check comps, right? But they're going to go home. They're going to look up the value of their cards if they didn't do it there with you. And they were feeling really confident about it, and they're going to lose a thing called trust in your ability to tell them what you think a card is worth. Now, there are people that just buy players, and there's a card they're looking for, and they know that it's 20% over what the last couple comps have been, but they believe the card is worth that, and they want it. And that's a different situation.
Yep.
But you will lose the ability to have returning customers.
But taking your $100 card and putting $125 on it just so you have room to negotiate it is silly. How about this? Price your $100 card at $100 and then let people know, hey, I'm open to fair offers. I can't sell it at 80, but 95, does that work for you? And they're going to say 90 and you're going to say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because hopefully if you were smart, you bought it at 70 or 75.
The reason most people are avoiding that, I think, is they don't like saying no. They aren't comfortable with like, no, I've got to get this out of it. Yeah. They want people to feel like there's a deal, so they think they'll have a higher close rate on that. You're going to have people that are trying to undercut you and all that. It's okay to say no on that, but definitely don't recommend marking up the price just to be able to negotiate and lower the price. I don't know about you, but if I am at a table, so when Gary and I go shopping at a show, right? Very rarely are we looking for one card. If we just see one card in a showcase that we really want, we'll go after it. But most of the time, we're trying to bundle a deal to get to a better margin and to find something that makes sense for the buyer and the seller, because sellers maybe are at 90% on this card, but they have another one that they're in at 50%, and now we just worked our way to 70 to 75% on a deal with 5 or 6 cards, right?
Right.
But when you and I walk up, we are looking for a baseline. I'm assuming you do this as well.
Yeah, to have an idea of whether somebody knows the market.
3 to 5 cards that I'm pretty familiar on pricing, and are they in Crazyville with their sticker?
Right.
That's really what we're trying to figure out.
Absolutely.
And if we are doing that, there is a really good chance that just pure collectors are doing that as well. If they're only collecting one player, they might be obsessively collecting. They may know that player's market better than you. There's a good chance they do. Okay, so marking it up to mark it down, terrible advice.
Yep.
Next one. I'll kick this off and we'll kick it back and forth.
Go nuts.
The next thing, and it's worded a lot of different ways, but being told that speculating or prospecting is where all the money is in collecting, grading, flipping, whatever you want to do with cards. This idea that the only way to really experience buying safe, if you're a collector, where there's room on the card to make sure you invested well, or to grow a business, that you have to do it with prospecting players or speculating where their market will be. Well, there's a guy named Sports Card Investor who has a track record of pushing. Jeff Wilson pushed this type of content over and over and over through the COVID boom. Here's a player you don't want to miss out on. This is the one you need to be investing in now. And I could go down the list, and this isn't it's easy to have strong opinions about Jeff, and there's reason for it, right?
Everybody knows mine.
But the general consensus of all this is go back and look through the track record of the number one influencer, if you will, on sports card investing over a 4-year window, and it's loss after loss after loss after
Massive
loss after loss after loss. The difference is that guy has a ton of expendable cash to blow on like Olympic lanyards that Michael Jordan wore. You don't. You don't have that money. Your spouse is not shelling that money out to you. If she is, keep her. Or keep him. Or keep them.
No judgment.
No judgment at all. But what I'm saying is there is a grifty, tendency out there, and there are people way worse than Jeff and what he's done in the past with that, and he seems to be shifting lanes, interestingly enough.
Crazy. He's shifting it into, like, things that can never get injured. Pokemon.
Yes.
Like,
moving to markets where there isn't that risk.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that he genuinely believed that he should invest in those players and actually spend a lot of money? I do. Yeah. I do. I think he really did. I think he really did buy heavy into those players. There may have been some pump and dump stuff there, but I don't know that the reach was that strong. There were people buying in, but there is a new grifter popping up every month in the card industry, selling you their course, selling you their content, selling you their tips, selling you their spreadsheet, selling you their business model. This is how you're going to find the right people to send off just in time before the next season. And if they become the quarterback, they should be blah, blah, blah. Go look up the great quarterbacks out there right now. The Mount Rushmore, whatever your Mount Rushmore is, look at their value, look at what they're selling for. Your fifth string quarterback is not that guy. They've not established that market. They haven't done it yet. They're not there.
I love how fired up you are right now.
Well, I just don't understand. Like, you have a real-time market in front of you. The people that are pushing prospecting don't know how to negotiate. They can't buy at 60 to 70% and do it in a way where they're happy and the dealer is happy with the deal. They don't buy a margin because it takes so much work. You and I do this all the time.
Yeah.
It takes so much time to consistently buy inventory at the right margin. You want to buy at 90%, spend $20,000 a week on inventory and collect 5 to 10%. That's a business model that might work for you where it's easier to find case hits that you can buy at 90% or whatever. But for the large majority of us out there, prospecting can be such a grift and scam if you're counting on that to be where you find your margin.
Yeah, and I would even amend that to say not just prospecting, but speculation in general. Will there always be an element of speculation to this hobby? Absolutely.
And we love that.
Yes.
Let's be fair.
But
we both love that.
If the advice that you're getting is that the best way to see a profit in this hobby or to increase the value of your collection is to take risky speculation, it's bad advice. And if you are getting, it's a lot like crypto. If you hear about somebody from an influencer, it's probably too late.
You're late to the party.
You're late to the party. Now, are you always going to be, are we miss everything? No, but you're later to the party than you should be. You should be doing some, and listen, we have a segment called The Lookout. I give you guys somebody to look out for that's going to be coming up soon, in my opinion, in baseball.
You have
baseball
50
season.
to 100x prospects before.
Yeah.
And you have lost hundreds on Bowman Autos over the years as well.
And notice that I'm not telling you to go invest in those guys. I'm telling you what I think could happen if you want to take a shot at it. I'm not telling you that you're going to 4X your money. I'm not telling you that they're a great investment or anything else. In general, the idea of sports cards being an investment tool is asinine anyway. This is a hobby that can make you some money. But if you are not a dealer, if you don't have a business, if this isn't a business, it's not an investment tool. It's a hobby and it's a business. That's not an investment tool.
It's like a lot of collectors out there are begging an influencer to tell them who to spend their money on.
Yes.
I don't understand it at all. I don't understand it at all. And the reality is this. When you dive into this hobby and you go beyond just building a binder out that you like or you have a box of cards, nothing wrong with that. It's awesome.
Yes.
But the moment you step beyond that and are curious, is there an upside to investing in a player, investing in someone's potential, speculating where the market will be? You better be putting a lot of time into researching that. And the large majority of people that I talk to that are like, I'm really big on this player. When I ask them, oh, that's really cool. What are you seeing there? Because if somebody has a good argument, I'll write the name down and go look it up.
Absolutely.
Because someone told them they were buying it. 99% of the time, somebody said I should buy this. Bowman it can be a trap because what I'm not going to do is act like you and I are baseball experts because we are not. But what we are confident in is our ability to go find the information that gives you the data to say, does this person really have a legitimate chance of getting called up this year? Are they on a team where that position is going to have a need to be filled sometime soon? Or are they so buried in single A as a pitcher on the Dodgers that it's going to be 7 years before they get that call up? I think that's important. So before I let you jump back in, the reality is most of you don't know where Mahomes' market is right now. Most of you haven't spent 20 minutes looking through Luka's recent solds to see, has the trade actually impacted him? The Lakers are in the playoffs, barely, probably not by the time this is over. But look through the established players. Look at what's happening with the market, people that you have a lot of data to go off of. Who are the last 5 players that you thought would have an uptick? Did they? If they didn't, here's the secret sauce. If they didn't, if they underperformed, if you lost money, go look at what happened. Do an autopsy on your investment.
Yeah.
You will grow so much more into a smarter buyer and investor and speculator by taking a look at your failures rather than just on to the next rookie that might 20x for me.
Yeah.
That's a scratch off. Again, that gambling component. Sorry.
No, you're good. And that's all very valid points. And baseball, Jason's correct. Neither one of us I would call a baseball expert. That being said, I do think that we probably know more about baseball and what we're looking at when we look at a swing and what we look at when we're looking at pitching mechanics than the average bear. You got to have some knowledge of what you're looking at. Again, baseball prospecting especially, if you're hearing about somebody from an influencer, it's probably a little too late. You might not completely miss, but you probably aren't getting in at the bottom.
Right.
So, and I mean, we talked about the next point at the same time. Using cards as an investment tool, like your 401k, is asinine. It's terrible advice. And there are people out there that give that advice.
Yeah.
Don't listen to them.
Conservative markets tend to win over the long term.
Yeah.
With that type of stuff. There are people, so I do think the caveat is, if you're super wealthy and you can get into extremely rare stuff that is very expensive and you have the tolerance for losing that money, you could have a bigger upside with a super high-end
52 Mantle PSA 10.
Yes, that's the game you have to play at that level. Now, there are people that are like, no, I do this. There's some nerds out there. They're doing all right.
I know people who have cashed out their 401ks to buy cards. That's insane to me. And I do this for a living, and that's insane to me.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, what do we got?
You should always hold longer. You're always it's gonna go up. Just have those diamond hands. Horrific advice. They have two
ACLs. They only blew one of them.
Horrific advice. Listen, here's the reality. This is very, very simple math. For every one card that you sold too soon, okay? Mm-hmm. For every one card that you sold too soon, there's 99 that you sold that went down.
Yep.
Period. A perfect example of this we saw in 2023. Elly De La Cruz, right before his call-up, his market was pretty high. And that's normally the correct time to sell a baseball prospect, is right before their call-up. Okay? Elly was one of the handful of humans who play the game of baseball whose market quadrupled for 3 months after his call-up.
That's when they saw what he had.
It's just so unbelievably rare to have happen. And there were so many people that, and I sold a bunch of Elly the week before call up, and I made good money on it. I could have made 4 times as much.
Yeah.
And I could have said to myself, that was so dumb, Gary. And next year I would have held on to 3 guys way too long and lost money on them. There's no such thing as selling a card too soon. That's just not real life. If you sell something and you made a profit on it, you did not sell it too soon. And if you find yourself regretting selling things all the time, you have to ask yourself a question. Should I just be a collector and just hold stuff forever? And there's nothing wrong with that if you choose to do that. But if you are actually trying to make a little bit of profit here and there on this hobby, there's no such thing as selling a card too soon.
Well, and there's another baseline, piece to this. It's just, you're going to stop enjoying it.
Yeah. Because it's going to be nothing but regret.
Constantly worried about, am I going to lose, you're up on the card, you have money, you could go enjoy. This is fun. We go buy sports cards and get paid to sell them.
Yeah.
Like, if you're making money on that, unless you have information that nobody has, that's not out there, should probably be okay with taking the win that you got.
And if you have that information, you should be a sports bettor, not a card collector.
Yep.
Yeah.
And because with that mindset, let's say that like Gary got his 30% profit on that. And he bought again. And as soon as he could get that 30% profit, he did it again. And he did that 10 times in the time frame that card may go up 2 or 3 times or down 2 or 3 times where the value was from one injury, a hitting slump, whatever could happen, right? 7 errors. I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, like he's up more than if he would have just held on that.
Yeah.
Because this is a constant churning, moving business that's over and over and over. And you stack those margins over time, right? And now you've surpassed that 4X. That's what a lot of people aren't considering is that 30% margin, 20, whatever your percentage is, right? Over a long period of time, if you're able to consistently do that with velocity, you're outperforming where that card would have been. If you're somebody that only sells cards once a year, then maybe sit on it. It's your money. Yeah. Maybe you open it in a pack. Card. You're in it for nothing and it's worth $500. Sit on it. Hang on to the card. Be okay if it goes down to 200. You're still up, right? Yeah. But don't expect every rookie that people get excited about to be worth way more.
And they don't always go up. But that's the key here. The cards just don't always go up.
Sneaker flippers are like feeling this big time right now. There was a time, but it's not like that with everything. Yeah.
Last one.
We've alluded to it, but I think it's important to point out there were a lot of people, especially during the COVID craze, when retail boxes were selling for 2 to 3x the sticker price, that encouraged a model of opening sealed products as a way of getting inventory. There is no math behind this anymore.
None.
You are losing money when you open. Now, Gary and I will talk about products like Bowman, like Allen and Ginter.
But listen, it's really important to understand a point when we talk about those products. In order to not lose money on them, there's a lot of knowledge and expertise and willingness to work that you have to have. If you don't have that knowledge or expertise or willingness to put the work into it, you're going to lose money on it. So don't take me saying I've never lost money on Bowman as you're never going to lose money on Bowman. Because if you don't have the knowledge that I have in how that market works, you may take a bath.
Some products, you have to have them listed on eBay that week because within 2 weeks, that $3 card is worth $1. There's a time piece to this that nobody's considering too. Like I talk about how I'm able to scan through, if I had a huge stack of vintage, let's say it was all the same set, like 72 tops, right? Baseball. I can have 1,000, 2,000 of those up and listed within an hour or two because of AI. But when you have a brand new product, a lot of those AI softwares do not read and have the recognition yet because there haven't been enough transactions to verify that that's the card. Now you're filling out a spreadsheet for each item. When you have a box of, I'll use Allen and Ginter because that's one I referenced, right? Because the celebrity cards is the other ones that will sell. Get a couple hundred of those up. It probably took me 2 or 3 hours to get them all listed if it's a brand new product. Those are going to 20, 30% will sell in that first week. The rest of them will sell over the next year. I have to pull each of those items. I have to ship each of those items. I have to sell those items to somebody looking for cards that sell for $1.99. And there's some of you that watch this that just enjoy that, and you're not jerks. But I'm going to tell you this. There are a lot of customers out there looking for a bargain on a $2 card that ain't going to be any less cheap when that $2 card is lost in transit and there's customer service issues. So all of that you have to factor in. But if you're opening big product, like if you opened Topps Chrome Basketball last year because you thought it was going to be good for inventory, everyone in the market was telling you got to open this. This is going to be great. Wimby Autos is going to be life-changing money. Chrome Update, the MLB debut patches, you got to do this, the buyback program. Have you noticed the theme yet? People marketing a product, market it. It's their job to tell you that, right? The math behind it doesn't make sense. How do I know? I've opened enough product and lost enough money opening to realize that this is not how you source your inventory.
Correct.
I beat that to death.
You did, but that's okay. It's a good point.
It's not the way to do it. Is it possible? Yes. Do you recommend it? No. Can you lose on it? Yes. I did it with Beavis and Butthead. I opened a box of sealed Beavis and Butthead out of the Fleer? Yes. Really cool set. And some of the cards go for 5 to 7. Yeah, somewhere around there. And 95% of those are still in the store. I thought they would be a lot more liquid. I did a test, blah, blah, blah. Turns out they're not that liquid.
Turns out the 10 people that wanted to collect that set were the ones buying all that stuff.
They buy 1 or 2 of the cards. Yeah. That's it. So.
So yeah, that little bit of the worst advice that we've received, and maybe we'll expand that next week to maybe the worst advice that we see other people giving.
Yeah. If you're seeing this, comment below with the worst advice you've ever received.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what your worst advice is too. And if it's something that we've told you, screw you.
Yeah. All right, Gary, you want to hit him with some prospecting now that we told people to chill out with it?
Yeah. Let's do it. The Lookout. So again, just a refresher, if you're new here, first off, thanks. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit the little bell so you get notified when we drop new content. We do a segment called The Lookout during baseball season, and that is me as a pseudo, not really expert guy that just loves baseball and
prospecting enthusiast.
Yes, a prospecting enthusiast. Yeah. Goes over a player that I think is going to be called up to the big soon. So far this year, I'm batting 500. Guys I've talked about have gotten called up. Last week, we talked about Tim Elko, who has just continued to do nothing but mash this last week. I don't think it's going to be long. This week, we're going to talk about a Chicago Cub. This guy is the number 57 overall prospect in baseball. His name is Moises Ballesteros. Now, Moises Ballesteros is a catcher. He would be a top 10, maybe a top 7 or 8 prospect in baseball if he was even remotely functional defensively. He is not. That should tell you how good his bat is. If you are a top 60 prospect in baseball and you are useless on one side of the ball, you're really good on the other side of the ball. Ballesteros is 21 years old. His cards are in 2023 Bowman. He has autos and color, all the normal stuff. All the kid does is hit, and he hits really well. He's not a pure power guy. He's kind of a Alejandro Kirk body style. Short, chubby kid, like you picture a catcher. That's what you got, except he's not very good at the defensive side of it. That being said, so far this year in 2025, he's hitting .414 with a .475 OBP and a .586 slugging percentage, and it's only with 2 home runs. He's got a .1061, a .1061 OPS, and he's in AAA. Playing at about 2.5 to 3 years under the average age of the level. He has risen from high A to AAA in 18 months.
The 2A leap is a huge jump.
Yes, from high A to 2A is the hardest jump in baseball, in my opinion. Now, here's the crazy thing about Ballesteros. He's got great pitch recognition, great plate discipline. He walks at about a 12% clip, and he strikes out at about a 14% clip. Does not have high chase rates, sub 20% chase rates, sprays the ball all over the field. We talked about a guy a couple weeks ago that's like that. He just, whatever the pitcher gives him, he's going to take. And that's a lot of gapper doubles. And when you're a fat kid hitting doubles, they're probably triples for other people. The Cubs are one of, if not the best teams offensively in baseball right now. So it might be a minute before he gets up, but they're not going to be able to keep this bat down too much longer. Cards are still pretty affordable. I think base autos are right around $60. Colors get a little bit crazier, but you could still buy some nice non-auto color for very reasonable prices. He's just, and in Wrigley Field, his swing plays. It's just a really compact swing that doesn't have a lot of moving parts, and he takes what pitchers give him and hits the ball wherever it needs to go and does a really good job of it. So Moises Ballesteros, this week's feature on The Lookout. If you have any questions about him, hit us in the comments. I'll try to dive in and answer
23 Bowman?
23 Bowman, correct. Yep.
All right. Before we wrap up today, as we always do, it's another segment of Low End Liquid.
These were weird ones. You showed me this. You were like, have you seen these? I was like, no.
This is kind of cool. So, recap, if you heard this before, I got to pitch it again so they don't know that they know that I'm not full of crap. All right, that's all that this is.
Oh, hey, drop the eBay store name. We've had a lot of people ask.
A lot of people ask.
Name
See, it's a double-edged sword. If I trust them with this, and they sabotage me,
well, maybe
I'm
you
a
know
dead man.
that's fine. Fair enough.
But I don't know that it will stay a secret because it's out there. If you're looking for the store, the name of the store is The Ball Card Store.
It's super original.
Yeah. So I sold a lot of cards over the weekend. I'm just under 44,000 active unique listings right now. And in the last 11 months, I've sold over 11,000 items, and I'm carrying a 99.9 feedback, which I'd like to keep. Please don't sabotage that. What I'm trying to do with this segment is to show you products that you can find in your dime boxes, quarter boxes, flea market, antique mall, card shop sometimes, that you can find on the cheap that will sell in that less than $10 range, and they sell at a quick rate, which means they're liquid, low-end liquid cards. I really like this set. This is a fun one. I picked this up in an antique mall, almost the entire set, and this is all that is left. So there were a lot more than these, but this is the 1971 Fleer World Series cartoon set, okay? So in 71, Fleer did this set with an artist. And this one, I've got a numerical, but we're in 1910 here. This is the Cubs and A's, Yankees, Giants, Cardinals, Yanks. They all have really cool, like, cartoon designs with them. They have some type of reflection of what happened in the series, 62 series, first NL series slam, right? These have sold at a really quick rate for me, and there's a lot of individual sales, too.
Yeah.
So it's not only multi-quantity, because I had someone mention that, well, yeah, you have such a big store that people are buying a lot of cards. Well, sometimes it's just a set and there's not a lot out there. This would be an example of it. If it's a card Gary hasn't seen, like, this is something I'm surprised that he hasn't seen. Now, what do these sell for? $3 to $5. $3 to $5. I don't think I had a single one sell over $5. But again, it's that vintage card stock. Card Dealer Pro or whatever AI scanner you use does pick these up right away. They're very desirable. I don't know if this was a shorter printed product, and that's why. I don't know if it's because the artist that was involved, but in a lot of these, they mention a player and what they did in the series. Maddie's last series win, a record setter, 4th series shutout, and this is the A's and Giants series in 1913. So if you see these out and about, they can be found in dime, quarter boxes. This was an antique mall. I got the whole set, and it averaged out to like 20 to 25 cents per card. And this is the 1971 Fleer World Series set. Cool.
Low and liquid this week.
Low and liquid. Be sure to bookmark the show every Thursday night at 7 p.m. on Whatnot.
Yes.
We are once again grateful for your support. Oh, we didn't mention this.
What did we not mention?
For those of you that haven't turned this off already, because I've been rambling. We were Gary was featured in an article of the New York Times this last week. We were both interviewed, but apparently Gary had something more interesting to say than I did. But just talking about the effects tariffs might be having on the hobby. Those of you that are dealers know that essentially our protected sleeves and mags and topplers is where we've been hit the most.
All the stuff we get from China.
All coming in from China. So, but yeah, I mean, if you want to look us up, it's in the New York Times. Print is available too, right?
Yeah.
We need to get that and print it out and frame it.
Yeah, we probably should. It'd be a cool thing to have.
I'll just mark.
I've never been interviewed by the New York Times before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you were so well behaved.
I was. You did before the interview say, "Hey, Gary."
We did have a pep talk. If you don't know, Gary shows a lot of restraint in the show, but he shares his views in everything, and that carries into politics. And we do a good job of not bringing too much of that into here.
Yeah,
but
we try.
You were very well behaved.
I
was
try.
very proud of you.
I did my best.
All right, this has been the Ball Card Show, the Sports Podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.